Bought me a shawl of red, white, and blue, and when we got married, he tore it in two. Oh, gee, I love him, I can't deny it. I'll be with him wherever he goes.
Terence, what prompted this return to Liverpool?
Quite by accident. Sol Papadopoulos, who was one of the producers, had taken some photographs of my mother about 15 years before, and I've still got them because they're very beautiful photographs. And he rang me and said, "Do you remember?" I said, "Yes, because I've still got the photographs." And he said, "Digital Departures are doing this thing that, they want to make 3 films in Liverpool. Would you like to make a fiction film?" And I just said no. I said, "Well," I said, "I've done my fiction films, I don't want to do any more." And he said, "Well, would you have a think about it?" I said, "Okay." I said, "But what I think I might like to do is a documentary." My template being Humphrey Jennings' Listen to Britain. Anyway, he said, "Well, would you like to put a proposal together?" So I did. And then I thought, oh God, what have I committed myself to? Because I'm not a documentary filmmaker. And I was going through London one day, I was being driven home, and I was literally about to ring him and say, "Look, Sol, I don't think this is a good idea." And at the end of, I don't know where it came from, but at the end of the 50s, there was a big slum clearance in Liverpool, and the new estates were built as the New Jerusalem. And it just dropped in out of nowhere. And I thought, if I run the folks who live on the hill underneath, it'll work. And he rang me, and I said, "We've got a film." And that's how it started, really. But it was wonderful to write the script, even though I had an architectural idea of writing the script and saying, "Look, just go out and shoot something." And then it would come in, or you'd get some new archival material, and that would spark a memory. And it evolved like that. I found that terribly exciting, but very upsetting. Odd little things were terribly upsetting, like remembering Queer Times winning the 1955 Grand National, and my mother having a little bet and winning 5 shillings. I mean, it just broke my heart, because I was back in that room. I was 10. We were all 10 of us around this little Bakelite radio listening to the Grand National.
I grew up in England, and I didn't come from Liverpool. I came from the West Country, and I'm older than you, and I wasn't raised a Catholic, and all those things. And yet, so much in your films, in Distant Voices and Long Day Closes, and now this film, I totally identify with.
If you try to be as true to a memory or a feeling as you can, then it doesn't matter whether you're British. Just as if you listen to, say, the late string quartets of Shostakovich, you don't have to be Russian to appreciate them. You don't have to be Finnish to understand Sibelius, or Austrian to understand Bruckner. You just respond to it, or you don't. And I think film is closest to music. It works. Music in films works like smell. You get the right piece, and a whole flood of memories come back. It's like smell. Get it wrong, and it kills it stone dead. Caught between canon and the criminal law, I said goodbye to my girlhood. Here I wept and prayed until my knees bled, but no succor came, no peace granted.
How many hours of archived material did you have to trawl through?
Well, I didn't work it out, but before the final cut, we went through the material right through from beginning to end, and it took a day to go through it. That was without all the other material that we'd not used. So there was a lot of it. I mean, I didn't count the hours. I thought, I can't do that. But it didn't feel like a chore, because every day something new would come in, and you think, God, that lovely colour footage on the ferry, I mean, and then the black and white, and the ferry looks as though it's going to sink with people. I find that sort of extraordinary, and that constantly revivified you every day.
It struck me watching the film that it's almost like Distant Voices, but without the story. I mean, it's like it's like the background to distant voices. You know what I mean?
Yes. In a way, of course, it is. But also, it's a meditation on time as well. And ever since I was a child, I was obsessed by that. That at the moment of ecstasy, you know it's passing, which is why I love the four quartets, because that's one of the main themes of the four quartets. And so it's a meditation on time, meditation on loss and regret. But I hope at the end of it, it's to say, but for all sorrow, for all joy, it's worth it. It's worth the journey. You know, Shostakovich, at his bleakest, always manages to say, but it was worthwhile. The journey was worthwhile. He was also said, the path taken is easy, but it's also futile, and he's right.
But is that why we love cinema so much? Because you can always go and revisit Singing in the Rain, and it's always the same.
Yes, but you can do that with all great art, I think. And that was my first film at 7, and it's a great film that happens to be a musical. But you can do that with the late symphonies of Bruckner. You can do that with the 10th and 5th symphonies of Shostakovich, the whole of the cycle of Bruckner symphonies, the whole of the cycle of Sibelius. You get the same thing.